What's going on, everybody? It is Alan from Breaking and Entering, and I am very thrilled today to sit down and talk to a drummer who plays a mean barbecue grill. But he's also a product of Milwaukee as well, one of the Violent Femmes, Mr. John Sparrow. How are you doing
Hey,
today, sir?
I'm great, Alan. How are you?
I'm
Thanks for
doing
having me
good.
on. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. John, we've come to know each other within like the last year, maybe 2 years now at this point. I don't know, time's a flat circle. But we've, kind of been in each other's orbit for a little bit. You've helped out with some stuff with the beat battle this year with Big Beat MKE. But first off, let's talk about kind of this video that we are just hours removed from when we're talking now. You just put out a cover of Phil Collins' "Easy Lover." Tell me a
I
little bit
did.
about what's all coming together with
I
this.
did. Real quick. When did I jump in on one of your podcasts with Breaking and Entering? Well, that was.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. I'll come back to that question for sure. But I was going to ask you, when was that? It was before all the beat stuff.
Yeah,
I would come
definitely. I
on there
think
and
it was, yeah,
remember.
you'd be in our live stream, I think probably around
Yeah, it was
2022-ish, I
during
think.
pandemic, right?
Yeah, like right
Right.
out of the pandemic. Yeah.
So it even goes
So,
back further, which is cool. Yeah, the video. So, uh, you know, I don't know exactly. My girlfriend, she's in film, she's an actor, and she went to film school. And so
mhm,
she understands all this, and she's subjected nightly and daily to the music I listen to. I kind of run that, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Although she turns me on to a lot of stuff, like the new Beyonce album is, I think, amazing, you know? So I do listen when I'm not being so impatient. But I think one night we were talking, and it was something about, I don't know, we were talking about how people are putting out videos, how they're putting out videos online. You know what I mean? How this whole process is working,
Hmm.
looking at from that standpoint. And saying, she said, well, you should do a video. And I'm like, she's like, do a cool version of a cover or something, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. And she said, I know, Easy Lover. And I'm like,
Okay.
it's kind of like that was a big song for me growing up as a kid. It hit,
Sure.
I think it came out, and I should know this, 85, 84.
Something like that. Yeah. 84,
It was
85.
it
Yeah.
was a huge hit. The kids, like all, we were all little kids, you know, on the south side of Milwaukee, listening to this, and we were like, "Wow, it rocks! It jams!" And it was just so. It was different. It was a huge hit. And then you heard it, and then the band I used to play with called the Danglers, right? Our
Hmm.
first trip all the way out to New York, we drove in my Volkswagen Golf with a stand-up bass all the way down the front. We packed it in the hatchback, right? I used backline drums, and Jason played violin, so that was, small.
Sure.
16 hours straight, and all I had was AM radio or FM radio and AM radio, tape deck broken. So we got to the point where we kept hearing Easy Lover. So we took a toll. How many times
Yeah.
did we hear Easy Lover from Milwaukee to New York to Manhattan? It was like 17 or 18 times.
Oh my God. That's once an
So
hour at least. Yeah.
yeah, right. So this song became part of this thing within our group of friends, and it was girl. We grew up with it, and then oddly enough, the guitar player Daryl Sturmer lives here in Milwaukee.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, so I occasionally see him around town, and I did see him recently, and I think the stars kind of all aligned and went in, like this, into my head. And or not my head, it was Nadia's head. You know what I mean? I shouldn't take the credit. And I said, yeah, but I don't want to do it like what do I
Right.
what am I good at? Right? What is my strong suit? Well, I mean, I can play a lot of different types of music. I said, well, I can swing this.
Sure.
That's my I'll swing that until the cows come home.
Yeah.
So
It's got an entirely different feel on it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's the lyrics are still there, and I love the idea. And then I start thinking, it's funny because and this is not why I did it, but from a marketing standpoint, which does help, and you have to think about that. I guess if you want to keep doing stuff and building on something, a lot of these younger kids love this music from the '80s.
Hmm. Yeah. It gets
They're going to
sampled a
hear,
lot. It's getting in there.
they're going to
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what's that from? I've heard that. But Oh, now the deep cut is the video side of it because
Hmm.
we kind of did an homage to what Phil Collins and Phil Bailey did, right?
Sure.
We figured out, Nadia, she figured out, well, okay, we can rent this helicopter. It's my flight. They go out of Mitchell,
Okay.
and it's inexpensive. So we're going to put a camera here. You have yours, and then I'll have, and we'll do this. So
That's
we
pretty amazing too.
recorded,
Yeah.
yeah, and so we recorded this flight, and we recorded all of the recording process. Yeah, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how that's how it happened.
Yeah. I mean, it looks, how many Milwaukee shot music videos can you see that have a helicopter shot in them at all? And I'm not talking like a drone, but like a legitimate helicopter kind of thing. Like,
Right.
that it looks awesome. Sounds great too as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
Um,
Jeff Hamilton mixed it.
the
Dave.
Yeah, the band that's putting that together, I was going to ask you, like, who's all in this band? Is this a new band? What
No,
are, you
so
know?
I play with this old timey group called Old Sam and the Teardrops, and the lead singer goes by Old Sam.
Okay.
It's Joe. And Dave Gelting, I played with in the Danglers. Dave Gelting played with me and Brian Ritchie from Violent Femmes in a Shakuhachi club that Brian had, which
Okay.
actually catapulted me into my gig. Troy Leisman, who's a local heavy hitter, sax player, he plays in our Old Sam and the Teardrops. And there's this drummer guy. He's in some wannabe band. It's so funny because right before this, I'm like trying to update this Zoom app on the computer, but I missed 2 credits in one of the posts.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
like, I'm like, my friends are teasing me like, hey, you forgot to add me as this. I'm like, dude, I'm like 2 people here. It's me and Nadia, my girl. You've met Nadia.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're throwing this together, right? It just happened, Alan.
Yeah.
A lot
I
of
mean,
fun.
hey, the best stuff is stuff that just kind of comes about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when it's forced, sometimes you can tell it's forced, and this doesn't feel like that at all. This feels like it's, we wanted to put something out. It's out there. Come check it out. And it's very cool
Yeah.
to see and
Yeah.
hear for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
It was. It was purely fun. And yeah, I can't say anything more. Yeah, I had a great time with it. And I don't care. I'm not looking at numbers. I'm not
right.
monetizing either. I don't have any of, and don't laugh at me. But like all the money part things, the
Mhm.
boxes, I don't have them. I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah. Well, I
That's,
think also Phil Collins would be coming after you anyway.
well, and he should, or Phil, or no, the writer is, I forget his name. It's a different. I think that there's 3 people involved. Nonetheless, I mean, I would of
Yeah.
course should come after me if I was making money on it, which I'm not,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
stayed under budget, so we're doing
There you
good.
go.
Yeah,
Perfect. All the way around. I do want to talk to you too about, so you were a guest judge for the Big Beat MKU Beat Battle this year. And even like you had said before, prior to this, when we were doing Breaking and Entering Radio, which was primarily a hip hop show, you were popping in the live stream and hanging out and watching, which is a very cool feeling to have as just a guy making stuff in Milwaukee, to be like, oh yeah, one of the Violent Femmes is just hanging out watching what we're doing in this room, right? Like that makes no sense to me, right? But I think a lot of people don't know that you have a background as a hip hop fan and grew up listening to hip hop and being a fan of it. So tell us a little bit about, like, what was some of the first hip hop that you were kind of exposed to in Milwaukee? And what was the first kind of records that really like resonated with you that we were like, oh, this is something?
that's yeah, right. So before I played drums, I was at that time in the '80s. It was pop music or whatever was on the radio. And then I had friends that they were like whatever they called them back then. I can't remember, Heshers or Burnout State, whatever. And those were my friends that were in the metal.
Okay.
Because we didn't have the internet or anything. We just would get on a bike. You ended up at some dude's house. This dude's cool. We're
Yeah.
gonna hang out. He like in his basement. His mom doesn't care. And you hear Metallica like Ride the Lightning.
Mhm.
You're like, okay, I can dig this. Then you go to the next house and you're hearing Run DMC. Or if you went to the really cool, like now in the terms of hip hop, I like to think I was a cooler kid because I would watch Rap City and Yo MTV Raps.
Yeah,
That was
definitely.
my inner. And I was just thinking about this earlier, how they were across the board. One track could be like Rico Suave,
Yeah.
and then the next one it would be like a Two Live Crew video. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we're very open as far as their programming, both Yo MTV Raps and Rap City. So
Right.
I would assume the first real hip hop, well, Run DMC in their hip hop, I started getting into some more of the, like the deeper,
Hmm.
the other artists. But of course, it was like Salt and Pepper, Run DMC. I caught that right around that LL Cool J, right? I was
Sure.
in at my age, I'm 48. So whatever years those were, I can't remember. Mid to late 80s, right? So it was a
Yeah.
lot of that. And then I started watching those TV shows, and I started finding like people like Kwame. He's out of New York. I loved it. It turns out he's a drummer. No wonder I loved what he was doing. His beats were great, right?
Right.
And the name I almost called, I think, uh, the boy, the boy genius,
Oh,
and the
wow.
rhythm is on there. There's a ton of I can't remember every track, but he was like one of my first cool like deep cut finds.
Sure.
Kind of like in the early '90s, where a lot of people were like, "Hey, listen, man, come here, check this out. What do you get? It's called Fugazi." Like when it was
Yeah.
all like nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
Primus that for the first time. I heard Nine Inch Nails for the first time, and then this guy makes this on a computer. Like you can't make music on a computer. So Kwame, it's funny. Yeah, I was talking to you the other day about Mellow Man Ace. That
Yeah.
totally blew my mind because it's hip hop and he is bilingual, and he was like
Right.
he's a pioneer of that. So I grew up where I grew up in the South Side. I had a lot of Latino friends. So when I
Mhm.
would hang out at their place, they'd say, "John, come here. This is what he's saying." Okay, say right here. He's saying, "Yeah, imanado otra cosa." Yeah, and explain. Well, but tomorrow it's going to be something. Oh, okay. And they're teaching me this.
Yeah.
And then he hit. He had a huge hit with that. He had a couple other hits too. So that was cool. And it was a different, it was just a different, it wasn't like, I don't want to call LL Cool J pop or Salt and Pepper pop, but they were a little bit
Right.
more mainstream.
The mainstream version of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's why I give a lot of credit to both networks, that BET did Rap City and then MTV did Yo MTV Raps. And then on Saturday, it would always be a special. They would like go and interview a group. So they
Sure.
would interview NWA. They would play NWA, and the people at the labels, they knew how to deal with all the, swears and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're still getting exposed to NWA, and then deeper other, like KRS-One. They would
Yeah.
play that. They would play MC Light, and then if people, even half the people, I know, like I might sound like a buster to some of the younger kids, but like these are like Queen Latifah was hitting it hard before she was in acting. What
Oh
she
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, you were definitely part of like the like music coming into the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like hip hop coming from the coast to the Midwest via that first generation of like Ted Demi and Fab Five Freddy, version of Yo MTV Raps. Like as a
exactly.
byproduct of MTV for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many of these like deep, and it's funny, I'm not gonna lie. So I get this level of success in my own career, right? So I'm not a joker, and I know I'm not so I know how to talk and handle myself. So I start reaching out to some of these people, these artists. I got my little blue thing up there next to my name, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm out there doing it and touring, but I'm like, so hey, I really like this one song on the Magnificent, and I'm like sending a message to Special Ed, this dude
Yeah.
out in New York that they played his. I loved it. He wore a suit in one of his videos. That was my 8th grade graduation suit. I had my parents go so I could dress like Special Ed. That's
Sweet.
I used to work on the dancing part in the garage, nobody around, but I loved the
Yeah.
whole part. I loved all the production too. The dancing and Digital Underground was fun. They had a way
Yeah.
and of course Tupac with his cameo there as a dancer, and then he got a spot. all around the world. Yeah, man. If that answers your question, did I answer it?
I think so. I mean, like for sure, it's cool to see, that you were influenced so much by that, and then to own, like have that success too as a drummer. I'm sure that there's some sort of influence that just kind of happens, right? From like, because like I was kind of the opposite. I grew up I had a drum kit in my basement, and then at some point was making hip hop beats once, I wasn't going to be in a band kind of thing, which of course snowballed into my own thing. But like to do things to the level that you're doing, and then now like we see the other day you send me a video of Flavor Flav shouting you out on his Instagram story because
He's
he
been
he heard
really
a Femmes
cool.
song.
He's been really cool. And I don't know if I told you. If I did, you can just let me repeat it. It's good for the bit, right? It's not a bit. It's not a lie. We
Yeah.
were this close, man. So I told you,
Yeah.
I always send these fan messages out, not
Hmm.
dorky, they're always appropriate. And he responded about a bunch of things. Excuse me. And I said, I saw the video of, did you see how he can play piano and bass?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He actually, people don't know that Flavor Flav. They think of like the caricature of Flavor Flav, right? Like the big clock and super
He's a
hype
hype
man
man.
extraordinaire. Yeah,
That's what
but
he
yeah,
is. And he knows that, and he's great at it actually, and I mean, he's got, 911 as a joke. He's had a lot of stuff. He can flow and he can lay it down, but he's a hype man.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
didn't know he was such a great musician. So of course, leave it to John. We're this close, and he had some sort of engagement. We were gonna have him sit in, play bass on Gone Daddy Gone.
Oh my God, that would be
Yeah,
amazing. That would still be any time that you can
I'm
hook
gonna
that up
make
would
it
be
happen,
amazing.
Alan. I swear to, I am gonna make that happen yet. But
Well,
that
now we're
happened,
putting it out to the world, so now it's got to happen. Now the
right.
pressure's
And
on.
so that was in the past, right? But we stayed in touch. There's no hard feelings. Crap happens, right?
Yeah,
And then he posted that the other day. I said, we're still going to get you up on stage. I will, I'm coming for you, dude.
love
Yeah.
it.
So he's been really cool. And that's actually the cool thing about a lot of the old hip hop guys. I don't know if it's because of, that, because I am legitimate, I said earlier, but they seem that they still care about who's stuck around. They still care about the music.
Yeah,
Of course,
yeah,
we all need to
exactly.
make a living. Some of them are producing, some of them went more into acting and writing, and just like what you were saying, what you're a drummer, and then you're like, then it's snowball into this.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't know.
And who
I
would
think
have
it's
known,
all in
right?
art. I think it's all in art form.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the ability to adapt and go into different directions and see what, is available to you that you can do. Like making beats for me, not to make it about me, but like was very much the like, well, I don't have like my friend that was we were a band, right? Well, he went often like was a scholar and went to Poland and is now a is now a teacher in Poland, right? Is a university professor. So when like this was like high school that this was happening, so I was like, well, I don't have, anyone to just sit here and play this drum set with, so let me make some beats and see who's going to be around from Milwaukee that might want to rap on these kind of thing. And yeah, it was all just kind of one thing led to another. So like I get, like you had that where your progression was watching hip hop videos, but then getting into all these different avenues that eventually lead to the Femmes, and meet all these people along the way. It's awesome to see, you
Yeah,
know.
and you're one of them, and that's the cool thing because I'm sure we've mentioned this. I mean, I probably have a million times. You know, uh, I was in. I kind of left hip hop in maybe like '92. Some
Mhm.
things would pop up here and there that I would be like, all right, that's cool. But you know what I mean? I felt a little disillusioned personally. Like it wasn't flowing, or I didn't like how certain things, just my taste. It wasn't
Yeah.
what it was, but but it's still such a formative part of my, the way I play drums is,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
you know,
There's something you just pick up by like
and so
osmosis kind
it
of thing. Like,
influences
yeah.
drums. But what I was going to say is, I would have never ever known where to go because now I still have this in my heart. Where would I have ever gone to see hip hop?
Yeah.
I found your podcast. I'm like, these dudes are actually talking. Hold on, and that's how this our snowball get going, you know. So I appreciate what you do too for hip hop, because you help expose me. You know what I mean? And we need to keep this going. And what you're doing is a huge service for that community.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, thank you.
I was talking to another rapper, one of these, and I'm not being a weirdo, but you know, one of the big guys that I'll talk to, text
Yeah.
to, and it just I don't know where I was going with this, but it's nice to see those guys are still relevant and they're open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these, you exposed me to a lot of these younger people, and hopefully we can get something bigger going. I probably had another idea going there, but I'm blabbering, you know.
No, it sounds good.
But you're the only one that's really promoting what I like, as far as what I know, is really promote. A lot of other people are promoting hip hop, and I think it's starting to become a lot more successful in Milwaukee because there's no stigmatism around the violence.
Yeah, yeah. And that was for the longest thing was, you know what I mean? Like, was trying to convince clubs that was like, this is still a viable thing, you know, or finding venues that would be like, we can book this. Like, there's a lot of really accepting people. It's just a matter of connecting them to the right people, you know? So,
that's all it is. We could sit here and start naming names and be like me in one of my posts and forget to put one of the names in. But there are so many great people doing things just like this at some amazing venues. I'd like to see more club grinding in the hip hop.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see more spots for this to be acceptable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so,
you know,
hats
around
off
the city too. Yeah.
Hats off to you. That was the first time I got to really, I don't think it's amazing as a kid. I never would have went to a hip hop show because we would have to go to the rave, and it would.
I was gonna say like the rave or like the Mecca at the time probably would have been like the only other thing.
Yeah. My mom would have been, bitching about the driving all that way, and then how you gonna get home, that kind of. And I was in junior high school, whatever, So
would have been a different time entirely.
As an adult now, to have this start to see this, at least here in Milwaukee, is great. Even on the road on tour, well, I've seen like Salt and Pepper and Tone Loc, because we played shows with them.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any hip hop in a club.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And two different animals. Total sense.
Yeah. The especially the energy at like the beat battle is totally different. And I'm glad to have you as part of it. I think it's great to be like, to also be able to say like, like John Sparrow from the Femmes is a hip hop head. Like, I'm glad to talk about this sort of thing with you, because like now I'm like, see, like there's a reason that you were judging beats, not just because you were a drummer, right? Like you were.
Oh, well, thank you.
More than qualified for that, based on.
Thank you. That means a lot, and I do agree with you, and that's what I'm flattered. But yeah, that there is more to it, and I understand production. I understand. Like I was talking to one of the bigger artists. I said, "Hey, man, we're in the same industry. We're in the entertainment industry. We're just in different departments.
Yeah.
It's all the same. I mean, I'm not talking about the art form, but how things shake down. You know what I mean? A little bit. There's but
there's carryover for sure, especially.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing this. What is kind of the immediate next thing for the Femmes? If we can go into some detail. You guys are going to be on the road in a minute.
Yeah. 24th, I leave. I fly to Seattle. I don't have it memorized because I've been doing.
That's okay.
Ellen, I've been doing this video. I've been doing all the, all the stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's been great to see, and it's awesome to see, that you have an ear for new music as well, and want to give it your attention to, which is also something that I think is commendable,
Thank you. For any young hip hop artist that really wants to start grinding and doing something, or even just like ask for advice about business stuff, I'm here. I can't speak for my colleagues.
Yeah.
Or even if you want, I can lay down some beats acoustically, and I'll do that stuff. I would love to, I do it because I want to, not because I'm looking for like, I can get paid on this. And the money comes. Yeah. Just work. Have fun.
Work. It'll come to you for sure.
And have fun. But I'm
if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it? What's the best place to find you?
Yeah.
Instagram.
DM me on Instagram. I mean, I'm on the other ones too. So But
Yeah,
thanks for having me on.
exactly.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys so much for watching. If this is your first time watching, make sure you check out breakingandentering.net as well. You can find us. We are Breaking and Entering on all of our social media as well. And stay tuned for even more from not only John Sparrow and the Femmes, but from Milwaukee's music scene at Breaking and Entering.